The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest room had ever seen. The ceiling stretched so high that clouds actually formed near the top. Light came from floating orbs that moved slowly through the air like lazy fireflies. The walls were made of a strange metal that changed colors depending on the angle you looked at it. Stood at the human delegation's platform, a small circular area barely big enough for 5 people. Next to her stood her assistant, a young man with sharp eyes and a calm face. Behind them were 3 guards in simple black uniforms. They carried no visible weapons. This made many alien species laugh when they first arrived. Around the massive hall, hundreds of platforms floated at different heights. Each one held delegates from different species across the galaxy. Some were tall and thin with blue skin. Others were short and covered in fur. A few had no solid form at all and existed as floating clouds of light. But one platform stood higher than all the others. It was made of pure gold and decorated with symbols of conquest. On it stood the representatives of the Empire, the most powerful force in the known galaxy. They had ruled for 10,000 years. They had conquered over 200 species. Their fleet numbered in the millions of ships. The leader of the delegation was High Commander. He was tall, nearly 3 meters in height. His skin was the color of dark stone, and his eyes glowed with a soft red light. He wore armor that had been passed down through 50 generations of his family. Each scratch and mark on it told a story of battle and victory. Looked down at the human platform with something between amusement and disgust. Humans had only been part of the galactic community for 50 years. They were young. They were weak. They controlled only one small corner of space with a handful of colony worlds. The hall fell silent as raised his hand. His voice boomed through the chamber, enhanced by technology so old that no one remembered who invented it. Today marks a historic moment, announced. The Empire has been patient. We have watched the younger species grow and develop. We have allowed them to believe they have a place among us, but patience has its limits. Felt shift slightly beside her. She gave him a small signal with her hand. Stay calm, wait. The human species has refused our generous offers of protection, continued. They have rejected the honor of serving the Empire. They have foolishly believed that their tiny fleet and primitive technology could somehow stand against us. Murmurs spread through the hall. Some species looked at the human platform with pity. Others looked away, not wanting to witness what was coming. A few smiled, happy to see another species brought low. Reached into his armor and pulled out a scroll made of some kind of glowing material. He unrolled it slowly, making sure every eye in the hall was watching. By the authority of Emperor the Eternal, ruler of the Empire, conqueror of 200 worlds, master of the galactic core, I hereby declare a state of war between the Empire and the human species. The words echoed through the hall. War. The word meant destruction. It meant the end of everything humans had built. Every species in the hall knew what wars looked like. There were no survivors. There was no mercy. Within a year, Earth would be ash and humans would be a footnote in galactic history. Smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. The human delegation has one chance to respond. You may beg for mercy. You may offer unconditional surrender. You may. He stopped. Was laughing. It was not a nervous laugh. It was not the desperate laugh of someone facing death. It was a genuine, warm laugh, as if someone had just told her a very good joke. The entire hall went silent. Even the floating light orbs seemed to stop moving. No one laughed at a war declaration. No one had ever laughed at a war declaration. His eyes narrowed. You find this amusing, human. Took a deep breath and controlled her laughter. She wiped a small tear from her eye and straightened her simple gray suit. Then she reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out something that made no sense in this advanced chamber of alien technology. It was a newspaper. An actual paper newspaper, the kind that humans had used hundreds of years ago to share news. It was yellow with age and carefully preserved in a clear protective cover. The headline was written in a human language that no alien in the room could read. Unfolded it slowly, just as had unrolled his scroll. She held it up so the entire hall could see. "Do you know what this is?" she asked. Her voice was calm and clear. Scowled, "I do not care about human artifacts." "This is a newspaper from 50 years ago," said. "The day humanity made first contact with the galaxy. The day we learned we were not alone." She pointed to the headline. "Do you know what this headline says?" No one answered. "It says, 'First contact confirmed. World leaders meet in emergency session,'" smiled. That was the public headline, the one everyone saw, but there was a second headline in a different paper, a secret paper that only certain people received. She turned the newspaper over. On the back in smaller print was another headline. This one says, "Operation Silent Watch begins. 50-year protocol activated." Tilted his head. What is this supposed to mean? Folded the newspaper and tucked it back into her jacket. "It means, High Commander, that when humanity learned about the galaxy, we did not celebrate. We did not rush to make friends. We did not announce our presence with joy and hope." She took a step forward on her small platform. Her voice grew stronger. "We watched, we listened, we learned. For 50 years we have been studying every species in this galaxy. We have mapped every trade route, every military base, every political alliance. We know the location of every ship. We know the name of every commander. We know the weaknesses in your armor, the flaws in your weapons, the cracks in your empire." The hall was completely silent now. Even the species who had been smiling moments ago were no longer smiling. Laughed, but it sounded forced. "You expect us to believe that humans, the youngest and weakest species in the galaxy, have somehow gathered intelligence on the greatest empire ever known?" "I do not expect you to believe anything," said. "I expect you to verify." She turned to show them. Tapped a small device on his wrist. A holographic display appeared above the human platform. It showed a detailed map of space, including locations that were supposed to be top secret, military installations, hidden shipyards, emergency supply routes, even the location of the Emperor's personal retreat, a place that only a handful of knew existed. Red eyes went wide. Several delegates began talking rapidly among themselves. "This is impossible," growled. "This information is protected by the highest security protocols in the Empire." "Your security protocols have not been updated in 3,000 years, said simply. "They were impressive once. Now they are ancient history." She gestured and the display changed. It now showed a timeline of military movements over the past 10 years. Every invasion, every conquest, every troop deployment, all of it documented with perfect accuracy. "We know that your empire is not as strong as it appears," continued. "We know that you have been losing ships to pirates in the outer regions. We know that 3 of your subject species are planning rebellions. We know that your economy depends on resources from planets that are running dry." She paused to let her words sink in. "We know that this war declaration is not a show of strength. It is an act of desperation. You need human space because your empire is dying." Slammed his fist against his platform's railing. "Lies. The empire has never been stronger." "Then prove it," said calmly. "Attack us. Send your fleets, but understand this, High Commander. For 50 years humanity has done nothing but prepare. We have not built colonies for comfort. We have built them as military positions. We have not developed technology for profit. We have developed it for war." She reached into her jacket and pulled out the newspaper again. "This newspaper is a reminder that humanity learned long ago that the galaxy is dangerous, that empires rise and fall, that the weak are conquered and the strong survive." She held it up. "We kept this newspaper because we never wanted to forget the day we decided to stop being weak." The hall remained silent. Every species was staring at the small human woman who had just challenged the most powerful empire in the galaxy. His jaw tightened. His hands gripped the railing so hard that the metal began to bend. You think a few stolen files and brave words will save your species? No, said. I think actions will save our species. And tomorrow, High Commander, you will see exactly what actions we have prepared. She turned to her delegation. We are done here. Without waiting for permission, without bowing, without showing any of the fear that every other species would have shown, walked off her platform, and the 3 guards followed. They moved to a transport pad and vanished in a flash of light. The hall erupted in chaos. Delegates from 100 species began talking, shouting, arguing. Some demanded that the attack immediately. Others warned that the humans might be telling the truth. A few quietly contacted their home worlds, wanting to know if humanity had information about them too. On his golden platform stood alone. He stared at the empty human platform, his mind racing. In 10,000 years of history, no species had ever responded to a war declaration this way. No species had ever laughed. No species had ever shown information that should have been impossible to obtain. For the first time in his long military career, High Commander felt something he had never felt before. Doubt. He turned to his aide, a young officer who looked just as shocked as everyone else. Find out everything about that woman, ordered. Find out everything about their so-called preparations. Find out if any of what she said is true. The aide nodded and hurried away. Looked at the empty platform one more time. The newspaper, such a simple, primitive thing, but the message it carried was anything but simple. Humanity had been watching, humanity had been waiting, and now humanity was ready. The question was, ready for what? The human embassy was located in the oldest section of the station, a place that most species avoided because the technology there was outdated by galactic standards. The walls were plain metal. The lights were simple bulbs that did not float or change color. The doors opened with mechanical sounds instead of silent energy fields. Most visitors thought the humans had been given this location as an insult. They were wrong. Sat in her office, reviewing data on a tablet. The room was small and simple, with a desk, 2 chairs, and a window that looked out at the stars. On the wall behind her hung a framed copy of the same newspaper she had shown in the council hall. Next to it hung a photograph of Earth, blue and green and beautiful. Entered without knocking. He had been her assistant for 5 years, and they had long ago stopped being formal with each other. The council is in chaos, he reported. At least 12 species have requested emergency meetings with their governments. They are trying to pretend everything is normal, but our sources say has been in secure communications with the Emperor for the past 3 hours. Nodded. Good, let them panic. Panic leads to mistakes. There is one thing, said, sitting down across from her. Several species have requested to meet with you privately. They want to know if we have information about them too. We do, said simply. I know, but should we tell them? Set down her tablet and looked at her assistant. What do you think? Considered the question. I think we should use the information carefully. Some species might become allies if we show them we can be trusted. Others might become enemies if they feel threatened. Exactly right, said. This is why we waited 50 years. Gathering information is easy. Knowing how to use it is hard. A soft chime sounded. Someone was at the door. That will be our first visitor, said. Let them in. Opened the door to reveal a tall alien with silver skin and 4 arms. This was Delegate of the Collective, a species known for their scientific achievements and their careful neutrality in galactic politics. Ambassador, said, entering the office. Thank you for seeing me on such short notice. Please sit down, said, gesturing to a chair that had been specially modified to accommodate different body types. sat, folding all four arms across their chest. I will be direct. What you showed in the council hall has caused great concern among my people. They have always believed that information is the most valuable resource in the galaxy. To see humans display such detailed intelligence about the Empire makes us wonder what you know about us. Smiled. Delegate, the collective has 73 research stations across your territory. You are currently working on a new type of energy generator that could revolutionize space travel. Your lead scientist on this project is named, and he had a birthday party 3 days ago where he received a rare mineral collection as a gift from his daughter. Silver Face went pale. How could you possibly know that? We know everything, said, but knowing is not the same as acting. In 50 years, humanity has never used our intelligence to harm another species. We have only gathered it to protect ourselves. Was silent for a long moment. What do you want? We want what every species wants, said, to survive, to grow, to be free. She leaned forward. They have controlled this galaxy for 10,000 years through fear and force. They have crushed any species that might challenge them. They have kept the rest weak and divided. This is known, said carefully. What is not known is that it does not have to be this way, said. They are powerful, but they are not invincible. Their empire is old and tired. Their technology has not advanced in centuries because they have no competition. Their subject species serve out of fear, not loyalty. Pulled up a holographic display showing the structure of the empire. Red dots marked areas of weakness. Yellow dots marked species that were unhappy with rule. Green dots marked resources that were running low. We have spent 50 years mapping not just but the entire galaxy, explained. We know which species want freedom. We know which resources are valuable. We know how the power structure works and where it can be changed. Studied the display with growing interest. You are suggesting that they can be defeated. I am suggesting that they can be replaced, said. Not through war, but through cooperation. If the species of this galaxy work together instead of competing against each other, they would become irrelevant. This is a dangerous idea, said. They have destroyed species for less. They have declared war on humanity, reminded them. We are already in danger. The question is whether we face that danger alone or with allies. Four arms unfolded and refolded, a sign of deep thought among their species. What exactly are you proposing? Stood and walked to the window. The stars outside seemed infinite, each one a sun with planets and possibilities. Tomorrow, we will give thee and the galaxy a demonstration of human capabilities, she said. We will show them that we are not the weak, primitive species they believed us to be. After that demonstration, every species in this room will have a choice to make. What choice? Turn back to face. The choice to continue living under rule or the choice to help build something new. A galactic community based on partnership, not conquest. Trade, not tribute. Cooperation, not control. And if the win, asked, if your demonstration fails and your species is destroyed, then you will have lost nothing, said simply. You can tell them that you came here to spy on us, to gather information for the Empire. They will believe you because that is how they think. They cannot imagine that anyone would visit us out of genuine interest. Made a sound that might have been a laugh. You are either very brave or very foolish, Ambassador. Perhaps both, admitted. But my species did not survive and grow by being careful. We survived by taking risks when the reward was worth it. Another chime sounded at the door. That will be my next visitor, said. I have many meetings today, but before you go, Delegate, I want to give you something. She walked to her desk and picked up a small data crystal. This contains everything we know about space, not to threaten you, but to show you what information sharing could look like. If we become allies, this is what we can offer each other. Took the crystal carefully. You give this freely, with no conditions. With one condition, said, that you look at it and think about what kind of galaxy you want to live in. stood towering over the small human woman. "I will consider your words carefully, Ambassador. Do not make decisions quickly." "We have waited 50 years, said. "We can wait a little longer." Left and brought in the next visitor, and the next, and the next. For the rest of the day, met with delegates from over 30 species. Some were hostile, demanding to know what humanity planned to do. Some were curious, wanting to understand how humans had gathered so much intelligence. Some were hopeful, secretly wishing for an end to domination. To each one gave the same message. Humanity was not here to conquer. Humanity was not here to destroy. Humanity was here to offer a different path. By evening was exhausted. She sat alone in her office, looking at the newspaper on the wall. Brought her a cup of tea, a simple earth drink that she had come to depend on during stressful times. "Do you think any of them will join us?" he asked. "Some will," said. "Not all, but some is enough to start." "And if they attack before we can build alliances?" Sipped her tea. "Then we will defend ourselves. We have not spent 50 years preparing just to talk." Sat down across from her. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course." "Do you ever doubt? Do you ever wonder if we made the wrong choice by hiding for so long?" Was quiet for a moment. She looked at the photograph of Earth on her wall, at the blue oceans and green continents that had been home to humanity for millions of years. "Every day," she admitted. "I wonder if we should have reached out sooner. I wonder if we should have tried to make friends instead of gathering secrets. I wonder if our caution has made us seem like enemies when we could have been partners." But prompted. "But then I remember the history we learned," said. "The species that trusted too quickly and were destroyed. The species that revealed their weaknesses and were conquered. The species that believed in galactic friendship and found only betrayal." She set down her tea and looked at her assistant with tired but determined eyes. "We did not hide because we were cowards. We hid because we were smart. And now, because we were smart, we have a chance, not just to survive, but to change everything." Nodded slowly. "Tomorrow will be a big day." "Yes," agreed. "Tomorrow we show the galaxy who we really are." Outside the window, the stars continued their eternal dance. Among them, hidden in the darkness of space, human ships waited. Not a handful of ships, as the galaxy believed. Not primitive vessels with outdated technology. Thousands of ships, advanced ships, ships that had been built in secret shipyards on hidden moons, ships that carried weapons the galaxy had never seen, ships crewed by humans who had trained their entire lives for this moment. The thought they were declaring war on a weak and frightened species. They were wrong. Humanity had been preparing for war for 50 years, and now, finally, they were ready to show what that preparation meant. In her office, finished her tea and began reviewing the plans for tomorrow. There was still much to do, messages to send, details to check, contingencies to prepare. But beneath the exhaustion and the worry, she felt something else. Hope. For the first time in 50 years, humanity was stepping out of the shadows. And when they did, the galaxy would never be the same again. The observation platform floated in empty space, far from any planet or station. It was a simple structure, just a large room with transparent walls that allowed visitors to see in every direction. Normally, such platforms were used for scientific observation or diplomatic meetings in neutral territory. Today, it held the most important audience in galactic history. Representatives from over 100 species stood or sat or floated throughout the room. Some had traveled for days to be here. Others had only learned about the event hours ago and had rushed to attend. All of them wanted to see what the humans had promised. A demonstration, a showing of human capabilities, a reason to believe that the strange species from the edge of the galaxy might actually survive the war declaration. On one side of the platform stood High Commander and a group of officers. They had been invited specifically, a gesture that many considered either brave or foolish. Wore his ceremonial armor, polished to a shine that reflected the distant stars. His face showed nothing but contempt. On the other side stood, and a new figure that no one had seen before. His name was Ho, and he wore the simple uniform of a human military officer. Unlike diplomatic gray, his uniform was black with silver markings. He was older than both and with gray hair and the kind of calm expression that came from decades of experience. Fleet Commander Ho was the leader of humanity's military forces. For 50 years, he had overseen the construction of every ship, the training of every soldier, the development of every weapon. He had never appeared in public before. His existence had been a secret from the galaxy. "Thank you all for coming," said, her voice amplified so everyone could hear. "I know many of you are skeptical. I know some of you came only to watch us fail. That is fine. We only ask that you watch and judge for yourselves." Laughed a harsh sound that echoed through the room. "Get on with it, human. My time is valuable and I have a war to plan." Did not react to the insult. She simply turned to Ho and nodded. Ho stepped forward and spoke for the first time. His voice was deep and steady, the voice of someone who had given orders that decided the fate of millions. 50 years ago, humanity made a choice, he said. "We chose to prepare for the worst while hopping for the best. We built our fleet not to conquer, but to defend. We developed our technology not to destroy, but to survive." He raised his hand, and the stars around the platform seemed to shimmer. "Today, I will show you the result of 50 years of preparation." The shimmer increased, and then, like curtains being pulled back, space itself seemed to change. What had appeared to be empty darkness was suddenly filled with ships. Human ships. They appeared in perfect formation, thousands of them, spreading out in every direction as far as the eye could see. Large battleships, small fighters, medium cruisers, support vessels, medical ships, supply carriers, an entire military force that should have been impossible for such a young species to build. The observation platform fell completely silent. Even's contemptuous expression faltered. "This is the first human fleet," Ho announced. "One of 12 fleets stationed throughout human space. Together, they number over 50,000 vessels." Gasps echoed through the platform. 50,000 ships in a single fleet would have made the pause, but 12 fleets, that was more ships than most species had in their entire history. One of the alien delegates, a small creature with large eyes and delicate wings, raised a trembling hand. "How is this possible? Our sensors showed humanity had fewer than 500 ships." "Your sensors showed what we wanted them to show," Ho said calmly. "Humanity has developed stealth technology that makes our ships invisible to all known detection methods. The ships you see now have been here the entire time. You simply could not see them." He gestured, and a single human ship separated from the formation. It was a battleship, larger than most vessels the aliens had ever seen. Its hull was smooth and dark, almost organic in appearance. "This is the," Ho said, "named after a human word that means flower, but do not let the gentle name deceive you." The moved closer to the observation platform. As it did, its hull began to change. Panels opened, weapons extended. What had appeared to be a simple surface revealed layer after layer of hidden systems. "The carries over 200 weapon systems," Ho continued. "Some of them are similar to weapons you know, others are completely new. Allow me to demonstrate." In the distance, several large asteroids had been positioned for the demonstration. They were massive rocks, each one the size of a small moon. The fired. There was no beam of light, no explosion of energy. One moment the asteroids were there. The next moment they simply ceased to exist. They did not break apart. They did not burn. They were simply gone as if they had never been. The observation platform erupted in confused murmurs. Even the officers were whispering among themselves. "What weapon is this?" demanded. "What technology can make matter simply disappear?" "We call it a phase eliminator," Ho said. "It shifts matter out of normal space. The asteroids still exist, in a sense. They are simply no longer in this dimension." He paused to let that information sink in. Against enemy ships, the effect is the same. Their vessels would simply vanish. Their crews would vanish. No debris, no survivors, just empty space. His jaw tightened. One weapon means nothing. The fleet numbers in the millions. No human technology can stand against such numbers. Ho smiled slightly. It was not a cruel smile, but there was something in it that made several aliens step back. "You are correct, High Commander. Numbers matter, which is why I mentioned that we have 12 fleets." He raised his hand again, and the stars shimmered once more. More ships appeared, not just hundreds or thousands, tens of thousands. They emerged from whatever hidden dimension had concealed them, filling the space around the observation platform until there was barely room to see the stars. "This is the second fleet and the third fleet," Ho announced. "I will not call the others. There is not enough space here to hold them all." The alien delegates were now openly afraid. Some species were physically shaking. Others had gone completely still, their minds unable to process what they were seeing. Stepped forward. "I want to be clear about something. These ships and these weapons are not meant to conquer. They are not meant to expand human territory or force other species to submit to us." She looked directly at. "They are meant to ensure that no one can conquer us. No one can force us to submit. No one can threaten our home or our people without facing consequences." His red eyes burned with barely controlled rage. "You dare to threaten the Empire?" "We dare to defend ourselves," said calmly. "The declaration of war came from you, not from us. We have never attacked a ship. We have never invaded space. We have done nothing except exist and refuse to become your subjects." She walked closer to the delegation, showing no fear despite being less than half's height. "High Commander, let me tell you something about humanity. We are not a species that seeks war. We do not dream of conquest. We do not take pride in destruction. What we dream of is peace. What we take pride in is building, creating, growing." She gestured at the massive fleet surrounding them. "We built all of this not because we wanted to fight, but because we knew that someday someone would try to take our freedom. And we decided 50 years ago that we would never let that happen." Ho spoke again. "The weapons you have seen today are only a fraction of what we have developed. The ships you have seen are only a fraction of our fleet. The technology we have displayed is only what we are willing to show publicly." He looked at each alien delegate in turn. "We do not share this information to frighten you. We share it so that you understand the situation clearly. They have declared war on a species that is capable of defending itself. The outcome of this war is not certain." Stepped forward, his massive form towering over the humans. "You think your tricks and your hidden ships scare me. They have conquered species with greater technology. We have destroyed civilizations that thought they were invincible." "Perhaps," Ho said, "but you have never faced humanity, and you have never faced a species that has spent 50 years preparing specifically for you." The tension in the room was almost visible. No one moved. No one spoke. Finally broke the silence. "High Commander, I have a proposal. Not as enemies, but as intelligent beings who can see the reality before them." Snorted, "What proposal could you possibly offer?" "A meeting," said, "private, just you and me. No guards, no advisors, no witnesses. I want to tell you the truth about why humanity prepared for this moment, and I want to offer you a choice." "A choice," laughed, "the do not negotiate with inferior species." "Then think of it as intelligence gathering," said smoothly. "Surely the great High Commander is not afraid to meet with a single small human." The challenge hung in the air. Several officers looked uncomfortable. To refuse would seem cowardly. To accept would legitimize the humans. Red eyes narrowed. Very well, one meeting. But when it is over and your words have proven worthless, I will personally lead the fleet that burns your world to ash. If that is the result, then at least I will have tried, said. Tomorrow, neutral location, just us. She turned to the assembled delegates. The demonstration is complete. I hope we have given you something to think about. The choice of what happens next is not just ours. It belongs to everyone in this galaxy. With that, she walked toward the transport pad. Ho followed. Behind them, the human fleet began to disappear again, fading back into the hidden dimension that had concealed them for 50 years. One by one, the ships vanished until the stars were empty once more. But the memory of what had been seen would not fade. The delegates would return to their home worlds with stories that would spread across the galaxy. The humans were not weak. The humans were not primitive. The humans had been waiting, watching, preparing. And now, for the first time, everyone knew it. The meeting room was located on an abandoned trading station in neutral space. It had been empty for centuries, its previous owners long extinct. Now it served as the perfect location for a conversation that no one else could hear. Arrived first. She wore the same simple gray suit she always wore, with no jewelry, no symbols of rank, nothing that suggested power or authority. She carried only a small bag with water and the folded newspaper that had become her trademark. The room itself was bare. A table, 2 chairs, a single light overhead. No windows, no decorations, no distractions. She sat and waited. An hour passed, then 2. Did not move, did not check any devices, did not show any sign of impatience. She simply sat and breathed and waited. Finally, the door opened. High Commander entered alone, as promised. He had removed his ceremonial armor and wore simple dark clothing. Without the gold and the symbols and the ancient metal, he looked almost ordinary. Just a very large alien with stone-gray skin and red eyes. He stood in the doorway for a moment, studying the small human woman who had caused so much chaos in his carefully ordered universe. "You actually came alone," he said. "I said I would." "Humans lie." "All species lie," said calmly. "But not today, please sit down." Walked to the table and lowered himself into the chair across from her. The chair groaned under his weight but held. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. "You are smaller than I expected," said finally. "In the council hall with your speeches and your confidence, you seemed larger." "That is the trick of confidence," said. "It makes small things seem big and big things seem small." Made a sound that might have been a laugh. "I looked into your history, Ambassador. You were born on a farming world. Your parents grew plants for food. You had no special training, no military background, no political connections. How did someone like you become the voice of humanity?" "I listened," said simply. "When humanity began the Silent Watch, we needed people who could pay attention to details. I was good at that. Over time, listening became understanding. Understanding became planning. Planning became leading." And the fleet commander, Ho. He was a teacher before first contact. Mathematics. When we began building our military, we needed people who could think precisely and plan carefully. Ho was the best. Shook his head. "Farmers and teachers. They are led by warriors who have trained since birth. Our commanders have won thousands of battles. Our emperor has ruled for 300 years. And yet here we are," said, "having a private conversation as equals." His red eyes flashed. "We are not equals." "No," agreed. "But we are both intelligent enough to recognize reality. And the reality is that your war declaration was a mistake." Slammed his fist on the table, cracking the surface. "The do not make mistakes." "They are mortal beings just like humans," said, not flinching. "You make mistakes. You have fears. You have doubts." She paused. "You have come here alone, without guards or witnesses, which tells me you are already questioning the path you have chosen." Was silent. His massive chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. "Why did you declare war?" asked softly. "Tell me the truth, not the official reason about defiance and tribute, the real reason." For a long time did not answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was different, quieter, almost tired. "The Empire is dying." Nodded slowly. "We know." "Of course you do." Looked down at his hands, massive fists that had killed countless enemies. "They have ruled for 10,000 years. We have conquered, expanded, dominated. But empires cannot grow forever. Resources run out. Subject species grow restless. Old systems break down. And new species appear," added, "species that do not fear you." Met her eyes. "When humanity first appeared, we thought you were nothing, a primitive species from a distant corner of space. You had no fleet, no advanced technology, no allies. You were supposed to be easy." "We worked hard to appear that way," said. "I know that now," shook his head. "For 50 years our spies watched your public face. Slow progress, peaceful development, a species focused on trade and exploration. We never suspected that behind that face you were building an army." "An army for defense," reminded him, "not conquest." "Is there a difference?" asked bitterly. "An army that defends can also attack. Ships that protect can also invade." "The difference is choice," said. "We have the capability to attack the Empire. We have the ships, the weapons, the intelligence. But we choose not to. That is the difference." Stood and walked to the wall, pressing his hand against the cold metal. "You do not understand what you are asking. They cannot show weakness. If we back down from this war, every subject species will see it. They will question our strength. Rebellions will spread. The Empire will collapse." "The Empire will collapse anyway," said gently. "Not today, not tomorrow, but the decline has already begun. You cannot stop it with force. You can only delay it." "So what do you suggest?" Turned to face her. "That I simply surrender, that I go to my emperor and tell him to end a war that we publicly declared. He would execute me for cowardice." "I suggest something different," said. "Something that might actually save your empire." She reached into her bag and pulled out the folded newspaper. She placed it on the cracked table between them. "When humanity first learned about the galaxy, we were afraid. We saw great powers, ancient civilizations, species that had been traveling between stars while we were still learning to make fire. We knew we could not compete with them directly." She unfolded the newspaper and pointed to the headline. "So we decided to compete differently. Instead of building the biggest ships, we built the systems. Instead of conquering territory, we gathered information. Instead of making enemies, we made ourselves invisible." She looked up at. "They have ruled through force for 10,000 years, but force is not the only form of power. There is also knowledge, partnership, trade, innovation." "You are suggesting that they stop being warriors," sounded almost insulted. "I am suggesting that they become more than warriors," said. "Your species has incredible strengths, discipline, organization, long-term thinking. These qualities do not have to serve conquest. They could serve creation instead." She folded the newspaper again. "Imagine a galaxy where they use their organizational abilities to coordinate trade routes, manage resources, maintain peace between species. Not as rulers but as partners. Not demanding tribute but earning respect." Stared at her. "You are describing a completely different empire." "I am describing a completely different future," said. "One where they still have power and influence but not through fear. One where humanity and the work together instead of fighting." "You would trust us?" asked. "After everything the Empire has done?" "Trust is built, not given," said. "We would start small, a ceasefire, then talks, then small agreements. Over time, if both sides act in good faith, trust can grow." Sat back down heavily. The chair groaned again. He looked older somehow, as if the conversation had aged him. "The Emperor will never accept this," he said. The Emperor does not have to accept it immediately, said. You are the High Commander. You have authority over military operations. You can order a pause in hostilities while you investigate the human threat more thoroughly. That is standard military practice. And while you pause, we talk, privately. We find common ground. We build a proposal that even the Emperor cannot refuse because refusing it would be more dangerous than accepting it. Was quiet for a long time. Outside the small room, the universe continued its slow rotation. Stars burned, planets turned. Species lived and died without knowing that two people were discussing the fate of civilizations. If I agree to this, said finally, and it fails, my species will face destruction. If you do not agree to this, replied, your species will face destruction anyway. At least this way there is hope. He looked down at the small human woman who had somehow talked a high commander into considering peace. You are either the being I have ever met, he said, or the most dangerous. Why not both? Smiled. Almost smiled back. Almost. I will contact my fleet. I will order a pause in preparations while we conduct additional intelligence gathering. That will buy us time. Thank you. Do not thank me yet, warned. This could still end in war. The Emperor is not a reasonable being, and there are many in the Empire who want human blood. There are many among humans who want blood, admitted. Peace is always harder than war, but it is worth trying. Moved toward the door, then stopped. He turned back. The newspaper, he said. Why do you carry it everywhere? Looked at the folded paper in her hands. To remind myself why we are doing this. 50 years ago, humanity could have reacted to first contact with fear and aggression. We could have attacked first. We could have hidden forever. Instead, we chose to prepare and wait for a chance to do something better. She held up the newspaper. This is my reminder that choices matter, that the decisions we make today shape the future we will live in tomorrow. Nodded slowly. I hope your choices prove wise, Ambassador. I hope yours do as well, High Commander. Left without another word. Sat alone in the empty room for a long time, holding her newspaper and thinking about everything that had been said. The conversation had gone better than she had dared to hope, but she knew that hope was just the beginning. The real work was still ahead. 3 months had passed since the declaration of war. 3 months of secret meetings, careful negotiations, and slow progress towards something that had seemed impossible. The Galactic Council Hall looked the same as it had before. The same floating platforms, the same glowing orbs, the same walls that changed color with the light, but the atmosphere was completely different. Every platform was full. Every species that could attend had sent representatives. Even species that had not participated in galactic politics for centuries had come to witness this moment. On the high golden platform, High Commander stood beside a new figure. Emperor himself had come, the first time an emperor had appeared in the council hall in over 1,000 years. He was ancient, his stone skin cracked with age, his red eyes dim but still sharp. On the human platform stood with and Commander Ho. Behind them were representatives from 12 human colony worlds, each one wearing the flag of their home. And scattered throughout the hall, something new had appeared. Species that had been afraid to speak now gathered in small groups. The Collective, the Myra Federation, the Union, dozens of others who had quietly contacted humanity in the past 3 months, expressing interest in a new way of doing things. The Emperor raised his hand, and the hall fell silent. I have ruled the Empire for 300 years, he said. His voice was weak with age but still carried authority. In that time, I have ordered hundreds of wars. I have conquered dozens of species. I have done what my ancestors did because I believed it was the only way to maintain power. He paused, looking across the hall at the assembled delegates. I was wrong. Murmurs spread through the platforms. An emperor-admitting era was unheard of. 3 months ago, we declared war on humanity. We believed them to be weak and primitive. We believed they would submit or be destroyed. Instead, they showed us something we had not seen in 10,000 years. He turned to look at. They showed us that strength comes in many forms, that power does not have to mean conquest, that an enemy can become a partner if both sides are willing to listen. Stepped forward on her platform. Your Imperial Majesty, thank you for those words. They give me hope that what we are announcing today will truly change the galaxy. She turned to address the entire hall. For the past 3 months, humanity and the Empire have been in secret negotiations. We have discussed our differences. We have found common ground. And we have reached an agreement that I believe will benefit not just our 2 species, but every species in this room. She gestured and activated a massive holographic display that filled the center of the hall. We are calling it the Galactic Partnership Treaty. It is not a surrender, it is not a conquest, it is something new. The display showed the structure of the proposed treaty, trade agreements, security arrangements, scientific cooperation, dispute resolution systems, cultural exchange programs. Under this treaty, the Empire will remain as a political entity, but its role will change. Instead of demanding tribute from subject species, the Empire will coordinate trade routes and manage common resources. Instead of conquering new territories, the Empire will help maintain peace between member species. She highlighted another section of the display. Humanity will share the intelligence we have gathered over 50 years, not as a weapon, but as a tool for cooperation. Every species that joins this treaty will have access to information that can help them grow and develop without fear. The display changed to show a map of the galaxy with new boundaries and new connections. We are not asking anyone to give up their independence. We are not asking anyone to submit to a new master. We are asking everyone to work together in a way that benefits all. She lowered her hands and looked directly at the assembled delegates. I know this seems impossible. For 10,000 years, the galaxy has operated on fear and force. Species have survived by being stronger than their neighbors or by submitting to those who were stronger. This treaty asks you to imagine something different. Commander Ho stepped forward. Some of you are worried that this is a trick, that humanity will use its military power to replace the as rulers of the galaxy. Let me address that concern directly. He activated another display showing the human fleet. Our military exists to protect humanity. It has never been used for conquest, and it never will be. Under this treaty, we are committing to use our defensive capabilities to protect any member species that is threatened, not as rulers but as partners. He looked at. High Commander and I have spent weeks discussing how our militaries can work together instead of against each other. We have found that we agree on far more than we disagree. Both of us want security for our people. Both of us want peace that allows growth. Both of us are tired of endless war. Stepped forward on the Imperial platform. I have served the Empire for 150 years, he said. I have commanded fleets that destroyed worlds. I have given orders that ended the existence of entire species. These are facts I cannot change. His red eyes swept across the hall. But the future is not yet written. When Ambassador first approached me about peace, I thought she was a fool. How could a small human offer anything to the mighty Empire? What could we possibly gain from partnership instead of conquest? He paused. She showed me something I had forgotten in all my years of war. She showed me that strength without wisdom leads to destruction. Power without purpose leads to emptiness. Victory without honor means nothing. He gestured at the human platform. Humanity is young. They have only been part of this galaxy for 50 years, but in that time they have shown more wisdom than the showed in 10,000 years. They prepared for war but hoped for peace. They built weapons but sought partnership. They gathered secrets but shared them freely. He bowed his head slightly toward, an action that made several officers gasp. I have learned from them, and I believe the Empire can learn from them too. The Emperor spoke again. The Empire accepts the Galactic Partnership Treaty. We commit to changing how we interact with other species. We commit to partnership instead of dominance. We commit to building a future that serves all instead of a few. He turned to the assembled delegates. I invite every species in this hall to consider joining this treaty. The choice is yours. There will be no punishment for those who refuse. There will be no rewards for those who accept quickly. Take the time you need. Study the terms. Ask questions. Make your decision freely. Smiled and reached into her jacket. She pulled out the folded newspaper, now worn from months of handling. When I first showed this newspaper to the council, it represented 50 years of preparation. 50 years of watching and waiting and hoping that we would never have to use what we had built. She unfolded it slowly. Today, this newspaper represents something different. It represents the moment when humanity stopped hiding and started participating. The moment when we moved from defense to partnership. The moment when fear became hope. She folded it again and tucked it back into her jacket. We kept this newspaper to remember who we were, but we will keep it going forward to remember who we are becoming. The hall was silent for a long moment. Then slowly movement began on the platforms. Delegates turned to each other discussing what they had heard. Some looked skeptical, some looked hopeful, some looked confused. But no one looked afraid. That, more than anything else, told that something fundamental had changed. Leaned close to her. 37 species have already indicated interest in signing within the first week. Nodded, it is a start. They are already planning opposition, continued. This will not be smooth. Nothing worth doing is ever smooth, said, but we have time now. Time to build relationships. Time to prove that this can work. Time to show the galaxy what is possible. Commander Ho joined them. The first joint military exercise is scheduled for next month, and human ships training together. A year ago, the idea would have been insane. A year ago, many things seemed insane, agreed. Now they are just difficult. She looked across the hall at. The High Commander was speaking with his officers, probably dealing with their concerns and objections. But when he caught her eye, he gave a small nod. It was not friendship exactly. It was something more careful than that. Respect, recognition, the beginning of trust. Ambassador, a voice interrupted her thoughts. She turned to find Delegate of the Collective floating beside her platform. Delegate, I hope you are satisfied with what you have seen today. Silver face showed something that might have been a smile. We'll sign the treaty tomorrow. We have analyzed the terms and found them beneficial for all parties. I am glad. There is one thing I wanted to say, continued. When you gave me that data crystal 3 months ago, I did not believe you. I thought it was a trick or a trap, but everything you shared was accurate. Everything you promised has been delivered. The alien extended one of their 4 hands toward. I have never trusted another species before, but I think I can trust humanity, or at least I can trust you. Took the offered hand and shook it gently. Trust is the most valuable thing one species can offer another. Thank you for giving it. Nodded and floated away to join the other delegates. Stood on her small platform and looked out at the massive hall. So many species, so many histories, so many fears and hopes and dreams. For 10,000 years they had lived under the shadow of the Empire, either as subjects or as potential targets. Now they were being offered something new. Would it work? Did not know. There would be setbacks. There would be betrayals. There would be species who took advantage of the new order and others who tried to destroy it. But there would also be cooperation, understanding, growth, a chance to build something better than what had existed before. She reached into her jacket one more time and touched the folded newspaper. It had been her constant companion for 3 months, a reminder of why she was doing this. But now she realized she did not need the reminder anymore. The future was no longer something to prepare for. The future was here, and humanity would help shape it.